Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Self-love through freedom and connection. So feel free to connect to the brave never fall on these social media platforms. If you find anything of value in this following podcast, hit that like button, subscribe and share, and support the brave and bold tribe growing one purposeful soul at a time. How are you feeling? Take a moment to do a self-check-in for yourself. How are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling spiritually? Are you feeling balanced? Are you still journeying on an intentional, purposeful path? How are you feeling? Balancing yourself is a healthy daily practice that will reliably keep you in harmony with your entire mind, body, heart, and soul. Clear your mind. Take a moment of silence for yourself right now in the moment. You are here now. How are you feeling? We are all free to live the life we feel is our purpose. You may be the only one who believes in you, but that's all you need to be free. Yourself. Life is about feeling free and really, honestly, truly feeling free to live in your purpose. That moment of freedom and clarity that you get from life when you're living in your purpose and is grounded in self-love, self-discipline, and you have found peace and joy, and you're living in joy. You are in joy and you're enjoying life. That is the greatest feeling, because even when things start to unravel around you, you know that you have what it takes to get through each moment throughout each day, because you're centered and focused, laser focused on your purpose, which is right in front of you. It's always going to be right in front of you. But it's not standing still. It's moving, and you have to move along with it. It may move at a different pace. It may speed up. It may slow down. Ebb and flow. Water can flow or it can crash. Life isn't just one season. There are multiple seasons. Life isn't just one balanced, flat piece of land. There are peaks and valleys. The Marianas Trench is the deepest place on Earth. I mean, this Earth is not just some flat, boring piece of rock, and neither are you. And you're connected to this Earth. You're connected to everything. So if the Earth isn't a flat, boring piece of rock, you are not a flat, boring piece of person. You have been born to live with peace and purpose. You are here to do what you need to do and freely be able to do that without restrictions, and to make your own decisions and live the life you feel you are supposed to lead yourself through. One cannot run if your feet are shackled to the ground. The chains may reach far, but you're limited to a small radius, only able to slowly move around, walking back and forth aimlessly or around in circles, accepting this is your fate. Until the ideal to break free of the chains enters your exhausted mind. Above is a bird, soaring freely in the open sky. That's all the motivation and inspiration you need to determine you weren't meant to be shackled down with chains. It's your moment, your crossroads moment. Stay chained and die miserable, or break free by any means necessary. You choose to find a way to free yourself from a life that was never meant for you. Breaking free is never easy. It's patience and belief you are making the right decision for yourself. You must trust yourself. Will and fortitude is powerful. You find a way to free yourself from bondage. Now you trust yourself even more. Confidence in your purpose is now a part of your DNA. You, through action in the moment, at a crossroads level situation, found the power to do whatever it takes to free your mind, your body, your heart, and your purposeful soul from a life without meaning. Enjoy. You now have the opportunity to live life in joy. You are free now to fulfill your unique purpose. Confidence in your purpose is now part of your DNA. You must trust yourself. That's all the motivation and inspiration you need to determine you weren't meant to be shackled down with chains. Live to love and love to live. Episode 5, Living Life in Freedom. Listen carefully. Those are the birds singing. How do you think it feels to be one of those birds? Do we believe, with all the sounds that they make, with all the purpose that they seem like they lack at times, but yet they're living their lives? Empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I take it one step further. What if empathy can be translated into any person, place, or thing? So you can empathize with an animal. It has a brain. It's conscious. It's alive. It has a soul. The bird is no different than you are. And I believe that is an important part of life, is that we understand that we are not alone. So even as something as natural as a bird singing, and you listen to all that out there, you can hear that they're communicating far better than any human being could ever wish to communicate with people that aren't even in their radius. They don't need cell phones. They don't need churches or cathedrals. They don't need gyms. They don't need Taco Bell. They don't need movie theaters. They don't need comfort food. They don't need relationships in the way that we believe we need them in life. They don't need a one-time structured house that has a mortgage. They don't need a car. And they certainly don't need us. If every human being was to leave this earth right now, we would not be missed by the birds at all. It'd be a blip on their radar. They've been here for millions of years. And it's funny because when you think about it in that context, you think about all the purpose that every single animal has on this planet. And we can learn from them in a lot of ways. Not just birds, but any organism on this planet, any place that has been built by human hands, any structure. We can learn from things. The ability to learn is something that we take for granted as human beings. The one thing that the bird cannot do, the birds, mainly for all we know, thrive on instinct. And it's passed on through generation, through generation, through generation. They know what to do. They know what to do. They're far more capable of surviving when they're born than any human being would ever be. A human child is incapable of taking care of itself. It might be the most pathetic life form to be born on a planet like this, in a world like this. Human beings, their offspring, our babies, come out with absolutely no way to be able to adapt to anything on its own for an hour without screaming out, "Please help me." Now, even look at something as close as primates, which were, if you believe in evolution, we're not going to go into that now, but if you believe in evolution, you believe that we came from apes. If you believe in God, you believe we were created in his image, his or her image, whatever God you believe. I personally believe in Tao, and I believe everything's connected and everything's just unfolding naturally, and it doesn't need an explanation. It is. It is here, so it is, so it's purposeful. We don't need any more than explanation than that. Anything more than that, you're really just thinking about things that you may or may not get the answer to. But if you believe that other animals out here in the world are living their purpose and freedom, when you think about the idea that a primate can have something that's very similar to a human child, but that primate child comes out much more adapted in real time to be able to survive on its own for more than an hour without being coddled in their mother's or father's arms. It's not too long after a primate's offspring is into this world and is conscious that they can do pretty much everything on their own. They still need some guidance, but they can walk around. They can find their own food. They're not screaming out every 5 seconds for some milk or some attention. And those are just primates. But the human child, we come out of the womb screaming and crying, ready for this world in one way or the other. Either we're super prepared or we're scared to death. Like we're screaming because we're so excited to be here, but we're just frowning the whole time. Or we're frowning and screaming because we are not excited to be here. And maybe the baby, when it comes out for a little while before we start getting our first memories, knows something that an adult would never know. Maybe it still has memories of a prior life. Maybe this baby has some type of sixth sense that goes away once you start getting memories that says, "I don't want to be here," or "I am so excited to be here." Either way, we're born and we have no control over that. And once we're out of the womb, we're not really free. because we are not able to take care of ourselves on our own without the guidance of another human being. And there's another step to that. Not only can we do that, but now, even though we're our own being, we're being taught by people who went through the same process we did and determine on what their memories are and what they went through in their lifestyle. Unlike the bird, with which instinctively genes are passed down to them, also instinctual genes are passed down to them. Even in the primates, there are instinctual things that they have that human babies have to be taught. It's not instinct. The instinct comes in later based off a lot of times of what you're taught or what you went through. So we're much more emotional based when it comes to instincts. We're reactionary based on what happened before and what could happen in the future. We rarely ever think in the moment when we're kids. Unless it's playtime. If it's playtime, we're always in the moment. But when it comes to heavier issues that we don't understand, we detach. We have to because we don't understand them. And we're naive. We believe we can be whatever we want to be, but we also, in a way, believe we won't be anything. Because we cannot wrap our minds around how do you honestly become an astronaut, and you think about that when you're 5 years old. I used to think about that all the time. And it's because when you're a child and you're learning stuff in the world, the one thing that your parents cannot teach you is what's going on in your life when they aren't around and what you're taking in for yourself. What information are you taking in when the parents aren't around? When they're not feeding you information, when you're not in school, when you're just by yourself on a walk somewhere. I used to go for walks, and there's a creek behind my house. From ages 5 to 10, there was this creek, and it was a wooded area, and I used to walk back there all the time. Sometimes with my friends, a lot of times I would go by myself. And I would have all kinds of thoughts back there by myself, ponder things. And I was afraid to come home and tell it to anybody because I thought I was being weird for doing it. But I was asking myself all kinds of things. How does this grow? Where did that animal come from? How far away are the stars? This, that, and the other. Things that we can now easily get through the internet. But back then, you had to go to the bookmobile, the library, and find yourself in the library some kind of a book based on the question that you had. And even then, you're limited. So looking back on it, I didn't feel as free as people claim to be, because you are not free if you're not allowed to think for yourself and learn in the way that you really want to learn. School is fine. There's nothing wrong with school. But I didn't learn nearly as much in school as I did when I wasn't in school. I learned much more because I was able to ask the questions that I wanted the answers to, that I knew for me would be more beneficial than being force-fed information in school just so I can get an A, a B, or a C. In a lot of cases, it was a D or an F for me because I was just not in tune with school at all. And I have always been smart. I just didn't like school. It was boring to me. It got to be so boring to me that I didn't even try. I just was like, what is the point to this? I did just enough to graduate. And I knew once I got into college, then I would kick it in gear. And that's exactly what I did. I got into college and it was A's, B's. Because I was choosing my classes. I knew what I wanted to do and I knew the direction I wanted to go in. I suddenly felt freer to make the decisions for my purpose rather than being in a structured atmosphere where people are telling me at this time you got to do this, at this time you got to do that, and you got to learn this and you got to do this, and if this is the information we're getting you, and if you don't get this exact information right, you fail. You did not get all the answers right that we taught you. So you're basically memorizing stuff that you don't even agree with a lot of times, or you don't care about. You think about it that way. Is that really healthy for a growing mind? Just think about that. You are forced to learn things that you don't care about at a young age, and it goes all the way up until you're an adult. Almost 25%, or even less than that. Actually, depending on how long you're on this. Let's just say you live to be 100. You're fortunate enough to live to be 100. Almost 25% of your growth is forced down upon you through the minds and teachings of people that you don't even like sometimes. Most of the time. And then you're measured by your memorization skills, because let's just call that, because a lot of the stuff, think back in high school, do you really remember it? And the stuff that you were supposed to remember, you were going to learn that anyway without school. Now, I'm not saying school doesn't teach you anything. I'm just using this as a way of saying Just think about it if you were allowed to learn whatever you wanted to for those first 25 years of your life. Think about that. And a lot of people who ask me, Michael, how did you get to be to the point where you're such a free thinker? It's because I don't know if I did it intentionally or not, but I really did not care about the school information that I had in school, and I turned it down a little bit in those first years. And when I was out of school, out of structure, I pounded myself with information that I wanted to learn. I read encyclopedias when I was a kid. I read the Bible a couple of times when I was a kid, not even been told to do it. I just read it, which is why I think morally I am centered. I'm not perfect. I am flawed like any human being, but at an early age, I was doing things on my own free will. I was reading dictionaries. I was reading film scripts and screenplays. I was reading very weird things for a kid who was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And also I read comic books. I love comic books and graphic novels to this day. So I had that aspect of it. I was interested in civilizations. I was interested in astronomy. I was interested in quantum physics and the solar system, the planets, the universe. What happens to us after we pass away? All these things were going through my mind, but also that wasn't enough. I wanted answers to my questions, and I sought them out, and I did this over and over and over and over again. I read books about anatomy and physiology when I was in elementary school, just for fun. I didn't even know the words I was reading. A lot of times I was looking at the pictures and then reading, just a little bit here and there of what I could take in. And if I had a question, I would ask my father and my mother. And luckily, they encouraged me to do this. They encouraged me. My father and my mother encouraged me and supported me in me spending more time learning on my own than I did in school. If I give my mother credit for anything, she allowed me to do that. Because a lot of people would have been like, no, get a book for your age group. You're stunting your development. And that wasn't the case. So I was allowed to be freer than a lot of the kids that were around me when I was growing up. And then when I got old enough to make even more decisions for myself, I expanded upon that. And I just kept expanding until even now, at 40 years old, it's like that 5-year-old kid is still in me. I still do the exact same thing. I still think the exact same way I did when I was 5. And in some weird ways, even when I was a kid, I was a little bit older acting than most kids. But now at 40, I'm a little bit younger acting than people at 40. I kind of just hit a baseline, and I've been staying on that. And it took me forever to realize that. And I didn't realize that until about a month ago. I started realizing, wow, in some ways you aren't too much different when it comes to the curiosity in you and the freedom in you than you were when you were 5. I still have this childlike mind and heart and body and soul to me. But at the same time, I still have all the wisdom of having lived and failed in life and succeeded in life. So I'm almost bridging the gap between me and myself when I started on this. In my earliest memories at 5 years old, I remember diving into this life that got me to this place right now. Being free and living life in freedom is something I will always push upon people. Because there's nothing worse in the world to have someone tell you you can't do something based on what they believe they want you to do, or the best pathway they believe is best for you, even if they're not living in. There's some people with good hearts that would say, this is your path, I think you should go this way. If it works for them, that's great. They are not me. There's only so much advice you can take from people, from a coach. Which is why on the Brave Never Fall, I do not tell you anything you should do. I tell you mainly what I have done. And I pose questions to you for you to go figure out for yourself. It's not about me leading you or making you do something. It's about me trying to offer you questions in a way that has leadership qualities in them, coaching qualities in them. But the work is done with you. My job is easy. You know, you're the one who has the hard work. My job is to pose questions, to have you look at things in a different point of view. And being free is all about that. It's all about that. You want to be able to go out in this world on your own 2 feet and know that you can survive on your own. Because who knows? That could happen to anyone. You can suddenly find yourself in a situation where you're alone. And I have found that myself. For a little bit of a time period after I got divorced, and I had a little period where I was on my own. For the first time, I had jettisoned everyone that was toxic. I had no plans. I had no engagements to do, and I was just completely free. There was a lot of love in that, but there was also me longing to have someone along my side, because I am a person who loves to connect with people. Not a whole ton of people. I'm a very private person, but I love to connect with special people. So I knew I wouldn't exclude that opportunity if it was to come around for a new friend, a new relationship, new family members. If I was ever to get married again, there's no problem with that, because I also have my son, who just happens to be my best friend. But we have to get to a point where you realize for yourself, what do you really want for yourself? Do you really want to be free? And if you do want to be free, how do you get there? What are some things you can do to free up some time to give you the opportunity to actually be free? We spend so much time wondering how we're going to get this done, how we're going to get that done, and where this person is, and how is this going to turn out? We forget about all those moments where you can say, you know what, all that stuff doesn't matter, because a lot of that stuff I can't control anyway, so let me just focus on what I can control. And what you can control is your freedom. You are free to do whatever you want in life. People are just apprehensive and scared to do it. They call it, if you think about people who overthink things, and I know this for myself, it's not really the case of overthinking. It's more of a case of fear. You're afraid you're going to fail. So you're overthinking something because you want to make sure you don't fail. So you're afraid to fail. Same with being a perfectionist. You're afraid you're going to fail. So a perfectionist is grounded in fear. And those are two things that I used to do all the time. I want things to be perfect. So until it's perfect, I won't start on it. That's called fear. And living a life of fear is not going to help you to live a life of freedom. And I think eliminating all fear, at least as much fear as you can out of your life, is a way to get on the path of freedom. A legitimate way to do it. Because you have to face your fears. You have to face your fears. That confidence that you can face things that you once were afraid of is huge. The confidence you get from that is absolutely monumental. It is a necessity. Whatever you're afraid of, you have to face it. We talked about in the last podcast about your pain and your chaos, and writing those things down as your mission and figuring out what those things are. A lot of those things in your pain and chaos is fear that you have in life. Those are fears, or those are things that you're afraid of. That's where the challenge of life comes in. When you start to push yourself a little bit to be uncomfortable, to say, I'm going to face these fears. That's how you get on the path of self-love as well. That's how you found peace. You won't find peace if you're afraid of something. If something is brewing inside of you like a fire and you're just scared to death of it to face the fire, you need to turn around and face that fire at some point. How much better will you feel if you face the fire and rid yourself of it? You have peace, and now you're living in joy. At least for that aspect of the fear that you have. We all have fears. I face them every single day. But I've learned that in order to be free, whatever I'm afraid of, I need to attack it. I need to figure out why I'm afraid, and I need to figure out a way to get into real time, into the real world, a practical way to get over it. I've done that enough in the last 10 years to know that that absolutely works. And it's a slow process. Whatever you face, you may not get over it real quickly. In fact, it may frighten you more. But you got to keep getting back at it. You got to keep turning around and facing whatever it is that makes you feel like you have chains and you're shackled to the ground. It could be a person, it could be a place, it could be a thing. It could be you. You could be afraid of yourself. That's called not trusting yourself. And that was my biggest issue, was trust. I was afraid of the decisions I was making. I was afraid to be a bad person. I was so afraid to be a bad person, afraid of messing up, that I actually turned myself into the very thing that I was afraid of. And that's another part of fear. You fear something so much, you actually start to obsess about it. And you become a version of basically what you're afraid of. And you become the thing that other people are afraid of. You become the very thing that you're afraid of, fear. Then other people are afraid of you because you're unpredictable, you're unstable. You don't have a balanced foundation. Your soul isn't centered in morality. You're making bad decisions, bad choices, all because you don't trust yourself. Because you have no self-love, no self-control, no self-discipline. You're living in pain and chaos. And in your mind, everything's cool. You're living in happy prison. You think everything's going well. When around you, everyone's looking at you like, this person is about to explode. We need to get away from this person. Or this person is like a horrible villain in a slasher movie. I don't know what this person may do. It's too unpredictable. And then on top of that, you're this person and you don't feel free on top of that. So that's another level of disgust you have for yourself, because you keep wondering why you can't do the things you want to do. Why opportunities keep falling through. You're not facing the fact that your fear has overcome you. You've lost your purpose. You have no hope. You're not in peace. You're not in joy. But in some way, you feel comfortable with all of that. And you keep moving forward with all this shit on you. Until something happens to just kind of tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, it doesn't always have to be a big event. Something could tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you're going the wrong direction. I think you need to turn around. Just a heads up. And then that person walks away, or that thing walks away. And you're like, what was that? That's you. Could be you from the past. Could be you from the future. We have a relationship with the person we are in the future. Are you sabotaging your own self in the future by not listening to that voice and turning around and doing something a little different? Or are you going to just keep walking? Oh, forget it. I don't know who that voice was. They weren't talking to me. I know what I'm doing. And you just keep walking. We have all done that. The fear was facing us right in the face, and we decided, you know what? I'm just going to keep hiking. I'll get to the top of the mountain at some point. And then a storm comes, and the mud just keeps on making you slide back down the hill. And you keep setting up base camp right at the bottom of that mountain. You're like, you know what? I will get up there sometime. Life is not fun when you're living it that way. Living in a free state means you are going to go up that mountain, but you're going to do it smart, and you're going to do it with intent, and you're going to feel like you were meant to go up that mountain. And when that happens, you go up the mountain. You find a way to get up there, storm or no storm, no storm. And that's the problem with self-discipline, with freedom. Self-discipline is how you get freedom. It's built into the very fabric of what discipline is. Discipline frees up time for you. You are getting stuff done, and only the stuff you need to get done. So you can free up time for the stuff that you would want to get done. Your free time. But people talk about self-discipline. Like they talk about, hey, I want to get after this. I want to do this. I have this goal. I just haven't gotten around to do it yet. That means you really don't want to do it. And Jocko talks about this all the time. It just means that self-discipline, this is what Jocko Willink says. He says self-discipline, if you want it, will find you. The discipline will find you, not the other way around. If you really want something, you fall into discipline without even thinking about it. You don't even realize you're doing it. I remember when I first started running, when I decided I wanted to run my first marathon. And the first day I was like, I'm going to run 1 mile. That's it. This is my first training day. I got 4 months to train for this marathon. I'm going to run 1 mile. And I ended up running almost 7. And I've never ran more than a mile in my life. And I was in school. I ended up running 7 miles. And ever since then, it's in my discipline to run when I can. But I also know in the back of my mind, even if I say I'm going to take about a month or 2 off from running, I know I can just pick it right back up because I've done it before. It's in my discipline. It's not gone. It's there because it will find me when it's time. Because I want to do it. People find it hard to get disciplined about things that they really don't want. Now think about that for a second. You find it hard to have self-discipline because whatever it is you want to be disciplined about, you really don't want it. You don't have to force yourself to be disciplined when you want something. It comes naturally. You don't force yourself to be in love with someone. It comes naturally. You think about that. That is freedom. Freedom is when you want something and it comes to you naturally because it's part of your purpose. When you go against the grain of that and you're forcing things, that's when things start to break down. That's when you notice your lack of discipline. That's when you notice your relationship fails. That's when you notice that your job fails. Failures start to pop up left and right. People start leaving your life. And you're like, what's going on? It's because you're wanting the wrong things in life for you. And you haven't taken the time to think about, what is it that I really want? And when you figure that out, the discipline comes to you and you get it. You have to figure out, and I always recommend through self-love and definitely trusting yourself. What is it that you want in life? Who are you? And when you do that, you find your purpose. And then all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about discipline. That discipline is going to come straight to you. You ask anyone that's super disciplined, they tell you, I don't think about being disciplined. I am disciplined. There is a huge difference in that. The people who are truly disciplined don't even think about that concept. We can convey it to other people, but when I'm doing what I need to do, when I'm disciplined about it, I don't think to myself, I'm super disciplined. I just think, nothing. I'm supposed to be doing this. Purpose. I'm free to do this. That freedom comes in with that. And that's when your life starts to change. Your life will start to change at that moment. You'll realize in every single moment you have purpose and you're disciplined about it because it's at the core, you're doing exactly what you want to do. And when you do something that you want to do, that's freedom. And when things start to push against that and you have to make some balance adjustments, you know exactly how to do them. And it doesn't matter how much it hurts other people. It doesn't matter what things you lose or what places you won't be seeing anymore. That's a decision for you to keep your freedom so you can continue to lead and show up to people you're obligated to show up for. You owe no one an apology for wanting to live in freedom because that is your purpose. Living in freedom is your birthright. And it's your birthright to be able to live a life of purpose that also gives you the right to feel free to live the life that you want. This is your mission. Focus on discipline. Self-discipline. Do you have it? You got to ask yourself that first. Do you have self-discipline in anything that you're passionate about? Now take that same concept and apply it to the things that you want to do that are goals and ask yourself why you don't have the same discipline for that goal versus the self-discipline you have for other things that you do that you want to do. Because on the things that you want to do, you're free to do those things and you're super disciplined about it. And I trust me, you're not thinking about it. You're just disciplined about it. So how does that compare to the goals you want that requires discipline, but you're not doing them? And ask yourself, do you really want to do that goal? And if you do, and you are not disciplined about it, self-discipline has not found you with that particular goal, you need to ask yourself, what is the goal and how do I need to restructure it or rethink that goal? And then you have to commit to trusting yourself about the process of discipline coming to find you, because it will. And once you start doing this thing and you start finding yourself in the rhythm of discipline with that particular goal, you've made it. Because you're doing something you want to do, not something you're forcing yourself to do. So that's your mission. Find out the things that you want to do and how disciplined you are about them versus the goals that you would like to do and how undisciplined you are about them, why that goal hasn't been met. And that you're not as passionate and focused about that goal as you are with some of the things that you are currently doing in your life that you enjoy doing, that you like to do. Because those things that you enjoy doing and you like to do, those things are your purpose. Those things are your purpose. And you're super disciplined about it. And it's right in your face and you can't see it. This is your day. You are here now. These are your moments. You own them. You are brave, bold, powerful. You do believe in yourself. You know you have more in the tank. You know the glass is half full. There is still more room for improvement. There is no end. Believe, believe, believe in yourself. You do believe in yourself. You do believe you can do whatever it takes to get the job done. You don't procrastinate. You don't embellish. You don't lie. You're true to yourself. Peace is in your mind. Peace is in your heart. Peace is in your body. It is definitely in your soul. You are greatness. You have purpose. Intentful purpose. You are here for a reason. You are ambitious. You are loving. You are kind, empathetic, compassionate. You are self-love. You have self-control, self-respect. You are joy, peace, freedom, happiness. You are connected to everything in this world and in this universe. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up.